So it's been 3 years since we had our last trailer for The Wolf Among Us 2. And since then, we have had an astounding amount of nothing from Telltale. Matter of fact, I checked today their Instagram, I checked their Facebook, I checked the website, I even checked their Twitter/X, and it's weird because they have been posting. I mean, for a long time, Telltale didn't even post for a while. Didn't even question if they even had like a functioning social media anymore. But they have posted. Funny enough, they messed up for one of the season. I think it was the spring or winter sale. They actually messed up the season for the sale. So that's a good indication of how functional Telltale is right now. They can't even get the right seasonal sale going for them. So if they can't even get that right in the post, you know they're in bad shape. But it's been 3 years since we had a trailer, and since then they have said pretty much nothing. Not only have they said nothing, we have not heard almost anything as far as I can see. I've looked at their YouTube. YouTube has been pretty much inactive. Like I said, the rest of their social media has been inactive. And it's August, so the year is more than halfway over. They have not said anything, so I think it's safe to say that The Wolf Among Us 2 is not coming out this year. But I think at this point, a more reasonable question to ask is it going to come out ever? Because it seems like behind the scenes of Telltale, it's pretty much a dead company. And I talked about this a while ago about the state of Telltale right now in 2025, and it's not looking good. I mean, they have lost most of their sponsorships. Like they had a few relationships that were kind of helping keep them financially afloat that they lost. And then the writing team, the creative team for The Wolf Among Us 2, all of them left. And it seems like they left before the game was finished. So it's implied that the state of the game was incomplete when those relationships fell through. And then they switched to Unreal Engine, which is from a different engine that they used before. They used I think pretty much from the beginning of Telltale until now, they've used the Telltale tool. I think it's what it's called. Their in-house tool or engine, which they got rid of, which is, they should have got rid of that a long time ago. That would have helped their games astronomically. It would have helped with a whole lot of technical problems that they've had for pretty much all of their games. But they switched to Unreal Engine. And then the problem is they laid off the majority of their company, I think last year. So that was confirmed. They did lay off most of their staff. Most of their partners or sponsors have left. And since then, we've heard nothing. The last thing we saw about The Walking Dead, and I think it was last year, like in October or something, is they said that the game is still in development, and that was it. But I mean, looking online, you can't really find, as far as today, current news that in the last 6 months, pretty much nothing. There is no news, no nothing. And I mean, if Telltale, I mean, they're obviously still a functional company because they recently, I mean, the last few months, I think even the last few weeks too, they have been posting on different platforms. I know I saw one post from a month ago. I think they did post a few weeks ago for a sale. So they are quasi functional. But as far as having a full staff, they don't have that. Unless they have gotten a whole new staff and a whole new crew since they got rid of most of their staff and they had their partnerships fall through, they do not have many people. And I mean, the fact that they moved to Unreal Engine from their in-house engine is a good thing, but the problem is they don't have pretty much no one there. And I don't think, if it's the people that have been there, I don't know how experienced they are in using Unreal Engine, so that's going to be a setback. I mean, even Square Enix, which was a far massive and far bigger company, it took them a long time to make Kingdom Hearts 3 because they switched from their engine to Unreal Engine, so it set them back. So if a company as big as Square Enix, if it took them a minute to readjust to doing Unreal Engine, a smaller company, one that's barely surviving as it is, that's going to be a massive challenge. So them going to Unreal Engine, it was the best decision. I mean, they needed to ditch their engine. That shit was atrocious. I mean, their games, I love their games, but my God, some of their games are just buggy, glitchy. Some of them are just awful to play now just because of how it was developed in their engine, which has been outdated for over a decade plus. So it was a necessity to update, but at the same time, it's kind of been a bad thing because now they don't have enough crew and enough staff to actually use the engine and use it efficiently. So it kind of leaves Wolf Among Us 2 in a very not so good looking shape because it looks like the game, even when they had a staff, was not really fully developed. We saw a little bit of footage like a few years ago about how the game looked. Like it looked great. We saw the Tin Man and we saw a few other characters. So the footage they showed was good, but the game seemed to be far from complete. And so now August of 2025, we've heard nothing. They've said nothing. There's no news. And I mean, like, at the very minimum, if they can post about sales and they can post about that shit, you can at least give an update. I mean, the one thing people would appreciate is, like, at least telling them what the hell's going on. Like, hey, we kind of had some pretty major setbacks. Right now, we're going to have to indefinitely put off The Wolf Among Us 2, but it's still in development, or something like that, like a variation of an update to like tell people as of right now where things stand. Because at this moment, a lot of people just think that the company died. I thought it died for a while too until I started looking into like what they had been doing recently. And like I saw they had been posting, so I'm like, I mean, the company might not be dead, and I mean, but they do got a social media department, or at least a person posting for your social media. So the company's not entirely dead, but it seems to be mostly dead. And I mean, the issue is like, Telltale, they died back in 2020. I mean, 2018. Sorry. They died in 2018. The company, went under. And then they came back and they were okay for a little bit. I mean, I still think that the biggest mistake of them coming back, one of the biggest mistakes they did, was that they focused on that game, The Expanse. And I don't know, like, if that was like a requirement for like partnerships, or like if they were forced to do that game. But in my opinion, I feel like them focusing on that game instead of making The Wolf Among Us 2 was a bad thing, because looking at it now, that game did not help them. It doesn't seem like that game really sold well, or even people liked it that much. It seemed like it was just forgotten, and it seemed like it didn't really do much to help the company financially. And so it was a useless game. And it seems like it could have actually killed the company in part. I'm not saying that game was responsible, but it could have been a part in why the company has been like pretty much in a dead state. Because I truly think if they had from the get-go, like right as they came out, if they made The Wolf Among Us 2, like this started 100% focused on that, nothing else but that game, and then developed it and released it, I feel like the company would be in decent shape right now. I think they would be making new games. They would have good partnerships going. They'd have sponsorships going. They would be afloat. Because I mean, the one game for over a decade now that people have wanted is The Wolf Among Us 2. Ever since the first game came out, which is like 15 years ago, people have been massively interested in having that. I mean, I've been, personally for me, I've always been that my favorite of their games, the Walking Dead games. I mean, since they came out in 2012, I've loved them, still love them. They're, for the rest of my life, going to be some of my favorite games of all time. But even I admit, like, they have done The Walking Dead way too many times. Like, they have done, I don't know how many, like, fucking, they did this season 1, season 2, the final season, and they had the spinoff. Like, they did The Walking Dead. Like, we Walking Dead fans, we had our fill. Like, we had more than enough Walking Dead content. But the Wolf Among Us fans, they got nothing. Like, I mean, I thought, like, at one point they would at least make, like, a DLC. Kind of like they did with The Walking Dead. Like, after season 1 of The Walking Dead, they did 400 days. And I thought, like, at least with The Wolf Among Us, they would have done something like that, where, like, they would have had, like, a DLC to kind of tide people over till season 2, or at least just, like, extra content. Because, I mean, The Wolf Among Us, besides The Walking Dead, is, like, one of their most popular and most beloved properties. Like, people, to this day, there are still people, I mean, even when I, like, looked at their Instagram posts and their Facebook posts, people, even today, as of right now, are still asking for The Wolf Among Us 2. So, like, there still is an interest and a demand for people to, like, play that game. People still want to play season 2. And, like, even in the comment section of the trailer that came out 3 years ago, people are still talking about it. Oh, like, and there's still comments, like, recently in the last few months of, like, hey, what's the deal with The Wolf Among Us 2? Like, when's it coming out? Tell us something. Like, people are just desperate for any information. Like, and that's why I feel like it would be a really good thing, even if they're gonna say it's delayed. At least people know, and you've at least told people. Because as it stands now, I mean, yeah, the company is alive, but like most people, unless you're like really looking to see if the company's alive, most people are going to assume they're not because they haven't released a game since I think The Expanse, and that's been like what, a year plus now. And I mean, I mean, not the Walking, Telltale Games. I mean, outside The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, they're not really that like. I mean, they're a known studio, but they're not like a overly known studio. Especially since they died in 2018, a lot of people still think that they're dead. Like there are people who didn't even know they came back a second time. So the fact that they've had radio silence for most of the year and have not said anything, they've missed every game show. I mean, not every game show, every like game event, like to release their like game or not even release it, but to like release information. They've missed every type of like. I don't think there is another. I might be wrong, but I don't think there is another like gaming event to where they can like show off any footage. And also, I don't think they got it. Like, I don't think they even have enough footage to like show off for any type of trailer or demonstration or tease or anything like that. I think what we saw 3 years ago is the best they got. Like, and it's actually a question of even if that's still like accurate. Like, was that just test footage that we saw? Like, because if the game wasn't really that far into development creatively, like if the writing team and all of them left early into development, then that the game might be incomplete from both ends. Like it might be incomplete from a game perspective and a writing perspective. Like it's incomplete all around. Like that, so they're going to hire writers and developers. So that's going to take more time. But it kind of makes me wonder, like if Telltale goes out of business again, which it seems like is all but certain, unfortunately. I mean, I love Telltale. I love The Walking Dead. It's, something I've loved for since it came out. But I think it's safe to say that Telltale Games, they ain't going to make it. They're not going to last. The fact that they are struggling to even have like a crew of people, they laid off most of their staff, which to me indicates you have problems. Like a company that's doing well does not lay off the majority, like because they didn't lay off a few people, they laid off the vast majority, like a good chunk of the company. They let go. So the majority of their company, they let go at the same time. To me, that does not show a good sign of a company doing well. A company that's doing good does not lay off most of their staff, then lay off most of their partnership. Or I don't know if they like let them go, but you get what I'm saying. Like they don't have their partnerships fall through and lay off most of their staff if a company is functioning well. So obviously, there's a lot of problems, and from what I read, it seems like a lot of the issues that was going on with the original Telltale have followed with the current one. So it seems like they didn't even learn their fucking lesson from how the first Telltale version died. And it seems like they're just following the same path for the second Telltale incarnation to die. So it's like, I mean, if you can't learn from your mistakes, I mean, maybe you just don't need to be in business. Maybe this is just a telltale sign, no pun intended, that Telltale just is not meant to be around long term. They had their peak, they had their time, and it's come and gone. But with that being said, I mean, I wonder because like when they went out of business in 2018, The Walking Dead, the final season, they were like, it's funny. It's funny how they're kind of in the same position now as they were in back when the Walking Dead, the final season came out, because they went out of business while they were making The Walking Dead the final season. So I remember playing it at the time, and no one knew because they had only 4 episodes for the final season. They didn't have 5. So I think they released the second episode, and then they just went out of business. And so there was 2 episodes out of 4 that were not finished, and there was a question of if we're ever going to get it finished. And for like half a year, there was not an answer. Like we didn't know, and even Telltale didn't know. Melissa Hutchison, the voice actress for Clementine, nobody knew what was going to happen. And then Skybound stepped in, and they were the ones that actually got the season wrapped up. So I wonder if in this situation a similar thing will happen if Telltale runs out of business or if they go out of business. Would a third party or Skybound, would they step in and finish it? I would hope so, because yeah, the thing, but I don't know though, because there is a demand for The Wolf Among Us 2, but the difference between The Wolf Among Us and the Walking Dead franchise is that the Walking Dead franchise is their staple. Like it has been established since like that's what got them on the map with season 1 of The Walking Dead. That's why they became a major household name. And so it made sense that Skybound they have a partnership or they're associated with the Walking Dead franchise. So it made sense why they, and also the game was like, it was actually in the middle, like it had been released and it was in the middle of coming out, unlike The Wolf Among Us 2, which we don't even know if it's even in a playable state. The game might not even be anywhere near close to being finished. And like, at least with The Walking Dead, the final season, the game was like halfway through. So they at least had the team, they had the assets, and they had the resources to actually make the game and finish the game. And it wasn't like they were having to finish the entire game. You only had 2 episodes to finish. Unlike The Wolf Among Us, where they would have to finish the whole game, and that would be a whole lot more costly, a lot more time, a lot more manpower, a lot more labor. Yeah, it's going to be a longer, a lot bigger project to take on. But I still think that there should be someone out there. Because, I mean, The Wolf Among Us, yeah, it's only been a game, but there, like, the fact that now, today, there is still a fan base that still wants The Wolf Among Us 2. I mean, hell, I'm talking about it. The fact that there are people today who still want to play season 2 and that they actually released a trailer and was able to get it to a state to be made shows that there is an audience. And I would argue that, like, if the Wolf Among Us season 2 ever does release, whether it's Telltale or another company, I think, I mean, it won't be like a, break any type of record gaming wise, but I think it would sell pretty good if it was marketed correctly and if it was actually advertised. That's the key thing. It's like people, because it's been so long since there's been anything about this game. Most people don't even know, A, if it's either in development, or B, don't even know that Telltale came back and was making this game. So they would have to, grind nonstop to get this game out there, get in circulation, promoting on YouTube, all on social media, showing it at game events, showing it at, different events throughout the year. They would have to really market the game. And if they did that, I really think the game would sell pretty good. Now, I don't think it would help save Telltale. In fact, I've become the opinion that maybe Telltale, as much as I love the company, maybe it's for the best that they just go out of business, because it seems like they just can't get it together. They failed once, and they came back. They got a second chance, which a lot of companies, gaming or not, don't get a second chance. They got a second chance. And they got this chance, and they seem to be doing the same things that fucked them the last time, with poor management, micromanaging, rushing shit, not having things planned out, bad workplace environment. So it seems like all the bad behind the scenes elements that caused them to go to business are still in place now. Probably is why they had to let most of their staff go. Probably why their partnerships fell through. So maybe it's just good. Maybe it's just best that Telltale just isn't in business, because it seems like they just, even with a second chance, the same thing, different day, different year. But at least we would have the game. Like, at least finally Wolf Among Us fans, and just people in general, like even new people, because it's been so long since the first game came out, that there'd be a whole new audience out there that haven't even played the first game. So then you'd have people who'd want to buy the first game and play the second game. So you make double the profit. People play the first game, buy the first game, then buy the second game. So I do think that if the game ever does come out, it will, sell pretty good. It's just a question of if it will. And I think if it's officially announced, which I think by the end of this year, early next year, it probably will be, that Telltale's either out of business or defunct or no longer an active company, whatever the case is. When and if that does happen, I would hope that at some point, more hopefully sooner than later, that a third party, Skybound, whoever, steps in and picks up the project and then helps get it developed and then releases it. I don't know who that would be. I would think Skybound. I mean, I think they also helped with their original Wolf Among Us. I can't remember at this point. But I think that Skybound, I mean, they might be the ace in the hole. They might be that Hail Mary that Telltale and the Wolf Among Us 2 needs to actually get done. But, yeah, I don't know. We're just going to have to see, because as it stands, it's not looking too good for Bigby Wolf and Snow White and all the fables coming back. It don't look like it's going to be happening soon. But, with that said, I think I'm going to call it a day here, and I will see you good people later.